Hello everyone, today I will be showing you some tutorials related to textures. First, let's create a box where we can add our texture onto. Right-click the box and go to the Appearance section, where you can see a button called Find Texture. Right now my texture folder is empty, so we need to add some textures. One way to add textures is to borrow some from the internet and edit out the fake PNG background, which can be very pricey, so I use the second way. Draw the texture by myself using free softwares. For the demonstration of this tutorial, I want to draw an electrical control panel, so let's start off by outlining a box. Oops, this line is not straight. Let's make it look better. Good enough. Now we are going to add some wires to the box to show that it is electrical. A warning sign, because that's the key feature. We can color in the box and add some final touches. Use lighter color for the sign to make it stand out. Fill in the blank areas. And let's add one more wire that is red. Oops, wrong color. This looks incredible. To place your texture into the texture folder, the default location should be in the document. Find Algodoo. Then click Textures. Now you can find the texture in the software and pick it for the box. You can also type the name of the file to add the texture. This can be helpful when we start coding. Last but not least, you can drag the file from any folder and place it into Algodoo. This can save you some time if you are lazy, but it has some disadvantages that I will talk about later. You are still able to change the color hue and other settings after applying a texture, however it is not recommended since you probably already have all the colors correct when creating the texture. That said, it can still be useful for having the same textures with different marble teams color without creating multiple texture files. There is also this button which allows the software to auto-generate collisions for the object based on your textures. It is very useful if you are making the object as part of your marble race's obstacles. But since you can't change the size of that object using code after generating the collision, and you can't use code to automatically generate the collision either, you are likely not going to use it in advanced marble races. So here is an example of what we can do with box collision that the realistic collision can't. Let's first adjust the size of the box so it fits the texture more precisely, by right-clicking the box and click on Script menu. Ideally you would want to make the texture close to the shape of a square so it could fit easier with the collision box. Now we can start with the actual coding. Don't worry if you don't understand any of these, this tutorial is not meant for it either.
Look at this dude.
Clearly we made some mistakes when calculating the texture matrix, so let's fix it. Alright, it seems to be working now. You can copy the code if you want. I will put it in the description down below so you can go ahead and play around a bit with the number. Anyways, so this is a really cool thing you can do with a box collision, able to change its size during the simulation. And if your texture looks like a box, you won't need the realistic collision anyway. This is also the reason why I don't recommend dragging your textures from another folder, as it automatically creates the collision for you. Although you can convert the shape back to a box, we can just ignore it and pretend we can't. When we talk about textures, of course we will have animations as well, because that just makes sense. You should always make your textures have simple names so you don't forget it. Most of our codes often go inside an object's post step or update section. I personally prefer post step. So here I am creating an if-else statement, which you probably should know. Since Algodoo does not have a convenient timer, the time to live variable is what people mostly use as a timer. And essentially, I'm writing it so that if the time to live variable becomes smaller than 10 seconds, it will change the texture, or else, do nothing. Now if we run the simulation, we can see that the texture changed after timer gets below 10. But this only works for once, so let's make it loop around a bit. Okay, what I have done is I didn't change anything for the first part except for that the timer also needs to be above 8 seconds. And instead of do nothing when the statement is false, if the timer is below 6 seconds, the texture will be changed back and timer will be set to 12, therefore repeating forever. See, it changed back. I wonder how long will the texture keep looping for before it stops. I got a little impatient so I stopped. Now that we can make a 2-frame animation, time to make it 30, or should I say, theoretically infinite, but of course, you need to also make that many textures for it. For me I only have one with 4-frame walk animation, so we will use that instead. I have differentiated them with numbers, so we can remember the name easier. The first one starts with the number 0 because this is usually what most programming arrays start with. So we are going to move this code outside to make it cleaner. Always remember to add semicolon after a line of code or a statement. Most of the time, your bug is caused by a missing semicolon. Make each frame have their own range of time to display. Remove this for now. Correct the texture. Copy it 4 times and there we have it, a 4-frame animation. However, this is not ideal when you have more textures, as changing each frame with their own code can be time-consuming, especially if you also made mistakes that need to change for every frame, and it is also very large, so we will be scratching that and leave just one if statement. Now the statement is very simple. Every time the timer goes below 10, it will set the texture to the first frame and turn timer back to 12. Very useless. What we can add is a variable that increases its value by 1 every time the timer resets to 12. And to make sure the variable is remembered in the object, we will create that variable on the top left of the menu and set it to 0 as default. Now we have our variable, but it is not doing much. We will get back to it later. First, let us break the name of the texture into 3 parts. It still worked the same because we technically didn't change it. We just joined 3 groups of characters together with the plus sign. In the middle, we can replace the 0 with our newly made variable. Notice that I didn't put quotation marks around it so it don't add the variable itself to the group but the value stored inside the variable. I will also be moving the increment code behind switching texture, so it starts with texture number 0 then goes to 1. The animation seems to be working fine. However, it disappears after 1 cycle, since I don't have texture number 4 and anything beyond that. To fix this, we just need another if statement like the timer, but with the variable. If there are more than 3 apples, we will eat all the apples. And there you have it, a walk animation with 4 frames. I changed the time from 12 to 10.5, so it could walk faster. Last thing I will remind you is, never make a texture or text with extremely high resolution. Algodoo hasn't been updated for years unlike other softwares, So there are lots of things it couldn't handle, one of which is high-resolution pictures, and it is also the reason why my Gold War version 3 took a long time to finish, because high-resolution picture will cause Algodoo to run out of memory, and eventually remove all your progress if you didn't save it soon enough, and that costed me 2 weeks to figure out. For the demonstration of this tutorial, let's break Algodoo. And we are back. All the new things we have added are all gone, so make sure to always make backups. Bye.